Affirmations. Do they work or not? That is the topic of this Own Your Greatness video. Thanks for being here. My name is Melinda Van Fleet, and we are going to dive right into this juicy topic that I have heard positives and negatives about on the internet over the years. However, I'm going to say for the record that I myself have had a pretty decent experience with affirmations, albeit I have learned a lot and used that knowledge for the affirmations over the years. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I first learned about affirmations probably from Joel Osteen back in the day when I was laid off in 2009. My husband and I were laid off at the same time in 2009. And at that time, he was saying, I am a lot. And I think that his book came out shortly after that is actually titled I Am. And I started to really understand that I have always known and felt that I am really good. I'm good at my job. I feel confident about myself. Does that mean I'm perfect? Absolutely not. But overall, my underlying energy is positive. And I think that's important to notate is how do you really feel about yourself? And I'm sharing this video not to make anyone feel worse about themselves if they feel bad about themselves, but just to have this awareness, because that's where we have to start, right? We have to start with a level of conscious awareness around how do we feel about ourselves? What is the underlying energy that rides our system throughout the day? So if something bad happens to you, if your nervous system is relatively positive and you feel good about life and you know that things work out in your favor and you have a certain amount of self-worth, things will generally work in that favor. Like you can't control the outcome. There's lots packed into that. But in general, things will work out for you. And I did a video at the beginning of Lionsgate, I think on August 7th, about everything not being so bad, right? So I did take a break during the whole Lionsgate weekend because I've had so many things, like crazy things happen. So I needed to take a break from video. I actually took down one of my videos because I just was showing up very hurried, and that was just the energy of all of Lionsgate. So anyhow, so if you were experiencing that too, you are normal. It's all good. Don't worry. So what I've learned about affirmations is then if you are someone, let's say, that has an underlying energy that is a bit more challenged, the one thing that is important to do is work on breaking that down. And I'm going to reference our brains and brain waves a little bit throughout this video because I think it's really important to think about it in terms of your brain, because that will also help you ground to the whole idea of affirmations and how you kind of get to where a place that they can work for you. So our brains, especially as we get older and how much we've consumed, how much challenges we've been through in our lives, how much trauma we've shoved down, if we've been part of the corporate world and it's been really toxic, like my experience, a lot of toxicity, a lot of things happened to me. You've dealt with death, like you've dealt with illness, like you've dealt with all this crap, right? Our brains actually become like denser and denser and denser. And it's actually an epidemic out there that people's brains are just like denser with all this junk. And so what I've learned as a really solid tip is you want to like start to chip away at that, right? A lot of people will say like clearing trauma, very valid, 100% valid. Clearing away just other things that have happened to you that you may not consider trauma. I always thought trauma was such a heavy word, and I was like, I don't have any trauma. So if you're one of those people, I got you. You know, you just need to clear out some shit that's like happened to you that wasn't so great. Excuse me. And what I've really learned, I don't want to stop my video over, so I'm having a sip of water, is that doing something that is the simplest thing, which I'm going to share with you in a second, really works. really works. And what it does is it makes your brain more malleable and actually more like a sponge. So then when you say affirmations, and I'll give you a couple examples in a second as well, your brain can actually like absorb that and can start to shift you at the subconscious level, which is what you're trying to do. And I've never really heard anyone like talk about it in this way. I just really discovered it on my own with my clients and with my husband over time. I really realized what was happening and intuitively could feel the difference. And I would start to talk to people about it and they'd be like, gosh, that actually makes sense. So what you have to do, and it's again, super simple and free on the internet. And depending on when you're watching this video, I'll try to put a link in the comments so you can have the one I use, but it's listening to alpha beats, Jose Silva and the alpha beats. And what that does is the simple alpha beats, which you can listen to anywhere. You can put your headphones on or not. You can lay down and listen to them. You can go to sleep to them. You can just play them in your car. It doesn't matter. They just kind of chip away at your brain in terms of like just kind of making it more malleable, right? So it's like having something really dense, as simple as this, and making it more malleable into like a sponge or like silly putty, like you can visualize anything, right? And just making it more malleable so the affirmations and the things that you are saying can actually like work. Otherwise, it's like throwing, a tennis ball against a brick wall. Like it's just not going anywhere. It's just bouncing back and bouncing back and bouncing back. And people just don't know that. Now, what happens then is you're going to start bringing up some shit. Yeah. And that's where people get stuck because they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to look at that in the mirror and be like, gosh, I could have handled that better. Or I need to let that go. Or I need to stop doing that, or spending money in that way, or talking to that person, or whatever. When you start to have the conscious awareness around these things that are bubbling up, often that's the stuff that you didn't want to look at. But that's what needs to happen. That's literally what needs to happen. Because all those things in your field are creating resistance. Resistance. The thing that you need to let go of is resistance. So when I hear people share success stories about using affirmations, I'm always super curious as to the journey that got them to where they're at, that they worked, right? So if you know who Rhonda Byrne is, she's just incredible. And I highly recommend listening to some of her videos, especially if you're new on this journey and you're dealing with a lot of things, because she's just a beautiful soul and has a great way of speaking and sharing information. So if you don't know who she is, again, Google her, but she is the creator of the worldwide sensation that literally like woke so many gazillions of people up, called The Secret. And she so generously shares a lot of valuable information on her YouTube channel. And one of the YouTube videos that she did is someone asked her a question, how did you get out of hitting rock bottom? So, and if you know her story, her, like many, many, many other entrepreneurs that are super, super successful, hit rock bottom before she got to where she's at. It is so common. It's bananas. And the reason why is because we as humans try so hard to figure everything out, right? And like buy another course, or listen to this person, or listen to our parents, or we tried it this way, or we did this way, and none of that works. You eventually surrender when you hit rock bottom. You have no choice. You have no choice. You have no other like calls to make to survive. Like you're just surrendering. You're surrendering to the universe, the divine, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it. You're surrendering to source. And in that surrendering, you let go of resistance, right? So in this video, she shares that affirmations are really what worked for her to get her out from hitting rock bottom. And then all these other like magical things kind of fell into place for her, right? So she shares always a lot of great tips. Like she's shared tips before about how she viewed like getting bills in the mail and and different things like that, and actually how the whole secret came to be in terms of how the movie and the link, because it was online on the internet, and the man who could do that technology for her like lived down the street in her neighborhood. Like, ugh, that's just magic in itself. That's crazy. And I have a similar story to that from an Abraham Hicks that maybe I'll share in a different video. But anywho, so magic can happen, right? When you surrender, when you literally let go of trying to figure it out, and you let go of that resistance, that worry, that impatience, all of those energies, and you let them go, like magic happens. So then an affirmation can work because you're just like positively thinking. You're just thinking positive. You're in a good state. You're in everything works out for me. It's like my favorite affirmation state. You can ask questions to the universe, and questions are really good. If you're struggling with an affirmation, you think it's a little too rigid, you can just ask questions. Go, how does everything always work out for me? And then you can go even next level if you're really open to working on these things for yourself, is you can say, what else, universe, do I need to see today that I could do a better job with, or that I'm missing, or that I need to handle, however you want to put it in relation to what you're going through. But the important thing is you've had to have done the work beforehand, most likely. Most likely. You have to be aware of your underlying energetic frequency. And then you also have to be aware of like the density that you are dealing with right now. You are dealing with right now, and try to like at least get to a place where your mind is more malleable, and that is in the alpha state. And I see so many videos out there where people are trying to get to like these other states, but alpha state is so magic. And that's just right below beta. So we operate in beta like on the daily, and most people know this. And then alpha is that little dreamy, like kind of woozy state. And that's where your brain's malleable. And that's where things sink in and click. And you're like, oh, and you don't even sometimes realize it happened. Sometimes you don't even realize it happened. I used to like kick myself thinking that I was like falling asleep in meetings, but I could remember everything. I was like, this is so weird. But once I personally just realized, I never even heard it from anybody. I just realized it myself, that it was just me like slipping into this little like alpha state, especially because I meditate so much, that I was still remembering things, and probably at an even better clip because it was going into my subconscious. So I hope these tips like help for you. I unpacked a lot in this little video. Feel free in the comments. You can tell me if you had a different experience. I would love to hear that, because this is just my experience, my connecting the dots. It's what I love to do. My connecting the dots from having conversations with clients, from working with my husband. It's just me like connecting all the dots on things that I hear out there, and I'm like, I don't really agree with either one of those, but here's my perspective. And I'm hopeful that my perspective helps you, or even someone you know and you feel like sharing my video. So my website is melindavanfleet.com. I do one-on-one mentorship, because you can't go from here to here. You have to work on the things in the middle. And then I'm also launching a mastermind called The Formidable, which is for couples in business who really want to go to the next level. My husband Ryan and I have been in business for 14 years, actually plus, but 14 years I'll say, with Good Karma Sport Fishing and educational programs. And I'm super excited to launch this mastermind. So check out my website or email me for more information. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.